I want to tell you a little bit about the way the Holocaust uh, was treated in the Soviet Union. Um, Not only by the officials and the authorities, but by the people in the street. And I want to share with you these three anecdotes that have to do with the Holocaust, or my memories of how it was dealt with in the Soviet Union. First, has to do with this boy in my class by name Vladik Bigun. He was a Jew. He was kind of athletic and strong in math, and we were together in high school. I remember one day we were in a gym in the changing room, and suddenly I hear some commotion in the corner, and I look into that corner and I see Vladik Begun standing there surrounded by other boys, and he is speaking about something in a very agitated manner. His hands are flying in the air and he's like very, very excited about something. So I gravitate towards him and listen, and I hear that he's saying, "Can you imagine? During the war, there were 2 million Jewish women raped by Nazis, by Ukrainians, by Lithuanians, by Latvians. 2 million Jewish women that were raped." I'm listening. I want to find out what's the punchline. Where is he taking this? Other boys are looking at him. Nobody says anything. And he keeps on saying, "Can you imagine? 2 million Jewish women were raped by Nazis and killed and raped, but first raped, then killed." And then somehow other boys lost interest in Vladik's story and dissipated, spread out. And as I was walking out from the changing room, one of the boys said to me, "Listen, Vladik has this thing about rape, huh?" And I thought, yeah, he seemingly does. He really likes this rape thing, huh? Yeah, I guess he does. And then I started thinking, what the hell was Vladik doing? Was he horrified by the amount of Jewish women being raped? Was he horrified by Nazi crime? And then I kind of understood probably what he was doing. By talking like that about the Jews and Jewish women as something other, he would disassociate himself from the Jews and therefore would remove suspicion of himself being Jewish. Though I still think that he did indeed have a thing about rape. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is that the building, the tenement in which I grew up in Riga's suburbs, Jugla in Latvia, was located somewhere very close, was built somewhere very close to the infamous graveyard of 50,000 children that were killed in concentration camps, death camps of Latvia, primarily probably at the infamous death camp Salaspils. And the graveyard was located somewhere near the building, my apartment building where I live. And in school, day and night, endlessly, they were telling us the place where your buildings are located, the place of your tenements where they are located is close to the mass grave where 50,000 children just like you were murdered by the Nazi occupiers, by the Nazi animals, Nazi beasts. 50,000 children were killed and destroyed, and day and night they kept talking about these children. Then they never mentioned that those were Jewish children, and that would probably also would not be really that important to me. But usually in the Soviet Union they were talking about Soviet people, not Jewish people being killed in concentration camps, and the Holocaust was never mentioned as such. But the atrocities were committed not against the Jews, but against Soviet people. Well, yes, technically the Jews were Soviet people, so this euphemism is understandable, not necessarily acceptable, but understandable. And in school, they would never mention that the children, the 50,000 children in that graveyard were Jewish. But 50,000 children were murdered, and they would talk about it ad nauseum in the morning, in the evening, and during the holidays, and after a while we couldn't care less. All we wanted to do is just not to hear about these children. We just didn't want to hear about dead children anymore. And they kept talking about 50,000 children just like you that have been murdered by Nazi occupiers, and we just didn't want to hear about anything like that, any dead children or any dead people in general. There's more to this. There was a kid in my class, this kind of blue-collar, tough kid from farthest outskirts of Riga. Mother probably was a single mother. Father, if he was present, was an alcoholic. Brother was in prison. Tough kid from the streets. His name was Alek Buchevsky, and we called him Bucha. And Buchevsky was not Jewish, probably Belarusian or some kind of Russian or Ukrainian, I don't know, some kind of Slav. And one day he approaches me and says, "Mark, you're Jewish." Well, no reason to deny that, even though in school everybody knew that my mother was Russian. But I agreed, okay, yeah, Jewish, yeah. You know what? I can get you a skull of a Jewish girl from that cemetery. I was kind of a little bit startled, like, why the hell would I want a skull of a Jewish girl, or any skull, or why would I want a skull? He says, well, it is a skull of a Jewish girl, you know, maybe you would want it like, you can make a lantern, you can put a light inside of the skull, and the light would be coming through the eye sockets, you can make a night light out of that. It's a very rare thing to find. I can get it for you. I was very surprised, and I didn't want a skull, but I didn't want to necessarily sound like I'm totally uninterested, not to offend him. And he was like, yeah, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, I have to think. And it's like, what do you want for it? It's like, well, you know, you have this machine gun cartridge belt, and I would trade it for that. Everyone wanted my machine gun cartridge belt. I had this probably 3-foot long metal machine gun cartridge belt full of blank cartridges with bullets. Looked great. I mean, every kid at the school wanted it. Well, I thought about such a trade, but I really didn't want to skull, so I told him no. And Butcher got upset, and then soon enough, my cartridge belt disappeared from my apartment. I don't know who took it, what happened, but my cartridge belt disappeared. And then I remember once they took us to the Salasfield's memorial, the death camp memorial in the outskirts of Riga. They packed us into the buses, took us to the train station, then we took the train there, then we all old school, all high schoolers, several hundred children were taken off the train, and then we had to march to the site of the memorial where the actual death camp took place, to the original site. There's a memorial now, and we were walking, and everyone was bored, and then we arrived there. And there was some kind of ceremony and laying of the flowers at the eternal fire. And then they played a song for us. Sung by Russian official governmental rock band called Singing Guitars. And it contained the line, "Place your candy upon the gravestone. He was just a kid like you. He liked candies just like you." And at that moment, we completely lost it. The other kids started crawling on the floor, pretending to be dead and asking for candy. And the whole thing turned into this travesty and a joke. And the teachers were very upset with us. And everyone participated in this. The Jews and the Russians and Latvians, and nobody could take this seriously anymore. So, by the fact that the Soviets were bashing us on the head with this concentration camp stories and dead children stories, we were absolutely desensitized to notions of Holocaust and mass murder and the tragedies of war. And I tell you, if you want people to become desensitized to these atrocities, and historical atrocities like Holocaust, keep bashing them on the head with that. That will do you. That will do you lots of good. Listen to Soviet experience. Be mindful of this. Be mindful of this. Don't overdo it.